Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, guys, this is take two. As you know, we had clients this morning, and we had a nasty dark entity that came by, and then we get the microphone turned off after doing a half-hour, what felt really good video.
Yep. So this is take two, and this is going to even be an even better video.
So we see Comet Swan is now visible from the Earth. Look towards the northwestern sky. Just after sunset, very, very low on the horizon. And we do have some really good-sized binoculars. We'll be scanning and seeing if we could see it.
Yeah, we're going to check this out. So hopefully we'll get to see something. I'm excited.
It's already past Earth. It's about 53 million miles away. It's heading closer to the sun, so it should be hopefully growing brighter as we go. And we'll see if it, makes it. It's really interesting when you look at this. Look at this. It comes by, they say, once every 11,597 years. What?
How do they know?
What's interesting about that number?
Oh, I'm not sure. What is interesting about it?
It's very close to the Younger Dryas period.
Right.
When most people say Younger Dryas happened about 11,700 years ago. Isn't that curious? Are we in a particular area again where you get a lot of these comets and then you get impacts? Because, Younger Dryas was obviously a big impact in Greenland, and then other impacts all over, North America and even out into the Middle East.
That's really interesting stuff right there.
And then we got like 8 comets that are around us now. So, you got to wonder, you really got to wonder these timings, these mass extinctions that we see.
Things that make you go,
And the storms roll on. This is in Australia, Western Australia. You have destructive winds and rain, setting records for both. You have gusts up to 82 miles an hour and, 2.5 inches of rainfall. We have over 60,000 homes lost electricity, most of those in the main city of Perth. And some video there for you guys to see, and you can see Main Street pretty damaged there. I'm not sure if the fish shop is open. Maybe the pizza place is still.
So sad.
Of course, with everything going on in this world, could be everything was shut down already or anyway. And here you see the rails of this bridge wiped out. And yeah, you would definitely get wet if you were standing over there.
Oh my gosh, if not get pulled out to sea.
So Brisbane sees the coldest May day in nearly a century. It goes back to 1922, which is the year that my dad was born.
That is so cool.
And, we have all these sort of records all over the place. Remember, Michigan had the 2 dam failures. And, you see this lady standing in what's left of her house trying to do some cleanup. It's very sad. Very sad situation.
It is. It's heart-wrenching.
That was definitely an older house, too, looking at the construction with the plaster walls. And there's video here for you guys to check it out. Massive inundation, as you could see.
Oh, my gosh, that's so sad.
And then this lady, they had to evacuate. And when they went back, they had to get to their house with kayaks to find it wasn't there because it was floating down the river.
Which is, again, really sad. I mean, look at all the trauma she's going through.
Yeah, very sad situation. And we see Henry County, this is in Virginia, declares local state of emergency after the flooding. Carolina's got tremendous rains, too. So did Chicago, as we see a car submerged here in Chicago.
And, wow.
So everything we were talking about, with Casey and his predictions, from the flooding aspect, Gulf of Mexico, Great Lakes all hooking up. Can you imagine 10 more years of this? It's looking like it's, I wouldn't bet against it.
Well, I don't know if we'll make it 10 years of this.
We will. People will. Things will always go on, and that's the thing. It's not the end of the world. It's just the end of the world as we know it. Right? And, this has happened in the past, perhaps countless times. If we look at, some of the native traditions, we're heading into the 5th world, meaning there's been other destructions, and we keep doing this again.
And again, but hopefully we keep learning along as we go.
And here we see Arctic total. Now, this is expanse and depth, sea ice volume, is at the lowest pace since going back to 2004. And it's been running that way for quite a while, all year. And in fact, and it was curious too, because when we look back at this, things had changed at one point, and it was looking like, hey, it's building, but this is showing it's not building. And again, we do get a lot of contradictory info in from different places.
Yeah, we definitely get that.
So the nuclear bomb tests that happened during the Cold War, and by the way, President Trump was talking about doing another one, they impacted rainfall patterns across the world. And the big question is, what do they really impact? There's more that they impact than we probably know. And when you're talking about, splitting the atom and harnessing this type of power, how do we know it doesn't affect beings on other densities, other dimensions? How do we really know?
Well, my guides were talking to me about that, and they did tell me that these things do impact the other dimensions, and it can cause like a splintering effect and cause situations where you would need to do soul retrieval.
And that's like the shattered soul concept from shamanism, for those of you that aren't aware of that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to do when you can, but it's also like terrible when it happens.
So we know there's many sources that say that the benevolent beings out there are star brothers and sisters, beings, of different ilk, such as perhaps the Galactic Federation, amongst others, that are benevolent and won't directly interfere because they respect free will. But they won't let a complete nuclear holocaust occur either, because it will, impact beings on other dimensions and densities.
Right. And I do believe that they are, hopefully, I feel like they are stopping it.
Well, we hope that's the case. I wonder if that's why we see, President Trump looking at low nuclear yield weapons, because they know that they're not allowed to shoot the big things. But perhaps if they use things that are of lower yield, they'll get to use them. And, this is where we really got to speak up. And why in the world do we spend so much money on the militaries in the first place? It's obvious to me. It's because it makes certain entities money. And it makes food in the form of loosh for others.
Yeah, and it keeps them in control.
Yeah, as long as we have a boogeyman to fear, whether it's the communist boogeyman, whether it's Al-Qaeda, ISIS boogeyman, whether it's asteroids are coming to get us now, or whether it's a UFO invasion force coming, there's always going to be a boogeyman.
And anything to keep us looking outside of ourselves for answers and what to do.
Exactly. So we need to get rid of nuclear power. The other thing is, too, because if you look at, all the nuclear power plants, and let's bring this up just so for those of you that aren't familiar, what would you rather face as far as, would you rather be in, say, the eastern U.S., where, you don't have to worry about big quakes so much, unless you're talking New Madrid, or if you're talking about around Charleston, South Carolina, you could get, as we have had in the past, 7.0 or greater there. And when the New Madrid hits, because it's on the craton, the energy is going to be felt in Boston, it's going to be felt in New York, it's going to be felt everywhere. The energy will transfer far farther with the New Madrid than it would, say, the San Andreas going. But when we look at where the nuclear power plants are, they're mostly spread on the east. There's a lot of different maps we could look at and see. You could see, I know Arizona does have one over here, and, that's in the Phoenix area, the greater Phoenix area. You see there's not so much in the west, but in the east there's a ton. And that was one of the things that concerned me. I loved being in the Carolinas, but there's a ton of them. And what happens if the grid goes down and they're not able to cool them? Then they start having nuclear meltdowns. These might as well be, explosions going on there. There's going to be so much contamination. That's one of the reasons why I felt, drawn over this way more. And, actually, really zeroed in on Cochise County down here. Because when we looked at nuclear, okay, so let's just change this here. Just looking at the fallout patterns as well. There's risks everywhere we go and we look. So this was basically, if there was a full-blown nuclear war, where would you be basically safe from primary targets? And again, I was kind of looking down in this area as being like my target area, very close to the border. Also, just because, here is good. You have Los Alamos, though, in northern New Mexico, to contend with. In many ways, the Four Corners area is supposed to be a safe zone, according to the Hopi legend. But, I also thought it'd be, if we are going into a grand solar minimum, it's going to get colder and colder and colder. Southern Colorado is pretty damn cold now. And when you're at Taos and north of that, it's pretty damn cold too. So, I'm not too crazy about the cold. So that's why I was thinking like over here or even potentially over here, although I think that we're going to have a lot more storms coming in. I think, a lot of people might not even realize, do you know where most of the winter lettuce is grown? It's grown right over here. This is like such a productive zone over in Yuma. Between Yuma and then over in California, that's where the vast majority of winter lettuce is grown. Now, Yuma gets pretty damn hot, but again, how's it going to go with the grand solar minimum? What we're seeing now is extremes both ways. And as we have shared with you, we've experienced very, very unusually cool and wet. And then, now they're talking, we're going to be at 110. So, we'll see how that goes. So I got off on a tangent, but, this really ticks me off. Like nuclear power, just look at Chernobyl, look at Fukushima, and look at the massive die-off of everything on this planet. This is draconian energy.
Oh my gosh, and that is the worst energy.
Exactly, as I check to make sure they haven't turned the mic off. Right. It's negative energy, and we've also shared with you, I felt strongly going and exploring Arizona and California and Nevada, that there was what I feel to be Lemurian energies here and peaceful energies. And I do feel we both got the same strong impressions that people were hit quickly, wiped out en masse in the past here. And I would not doubt if it was some sort of nuclear technology that was used to do this.
Yeah, when I do the remote viewing, then that's what I do. I see a very active place, and then I see it wiped out, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Study identifies 85 previously unknown submarine landslides in the Gulf of Mexico from 2008 to 2015. And when I lived in Sarasota, for instance, and down around Venice, never really worried about a tsunami. I think a lot of people in the Gulf of Mexico would never think about a tsunami. You worry about hurricanes when they come, and the lightning storms can be pretty intense. When I was living over on Palm Coast, then I thought about La Palma, and that always made me a little anxious because I know what that could bring if anything ever happened over there in the Canary Islands. But this is showing that they found 85 different landslides that potentially could cause a tsunami in the Gulf of Mexico. So I thought that was pretty curious. And there has been some really anomalous warming in some zones that show that there's definitely volcanic activity going on in there. And 2.5 years ago, one of the, I think, first videos I ever did that hit 100,000 views before the censorship came in and demonetization was about that anomalous heating in the Gulf of Mexico. And so we see ESO's VLT spots first direct evidence of planet birth, and see the spiral. And, as I had asked Cindy, what does that remind you of?
The Fibonacci.
Yeah, certainly. As above, so below. As within, so without. And as Cindy had mentioned, you could see the Fibonacci in your ear as well. And that reminds me of the fact that, there's acupuncture points in your ears for every point on your body. Same thing with your hands and your feet. This is part of the microcosm and the macrocosm and how they reflect each other. So this European Southern Observatory's very large telescope, that's what VLT stands for, very large telescope, it's revealed possible signs of a star system being born. So pretty cool stuff. And we have 8 of the best egg-laying chickens for daily farm fresh goodness. For those of you that are getting ready to homestead, this is what a friend of mine recommended, Rhode Island Reds. And they'll give you 150 to 250 eggs a year, and the eggs are large to extra large brown ones. Their personality is friendly and bold and inquisitive, and they weigh 6.5 pounds. Any experience with those?
A little bit, yeah. They're nice. They're nice.
Australorp. I've never heard of these guys. They'll give you 200 plus eggs a year, medium brown, sometimes with speckles. They're pretty calm, quiet, and docile, and they weigh 6.5 pounds.
Dealt with those too. Mm-hmm.
Leghorns, foghorn leghorn. Average eggs per year, 200 to 300. Extra large white eggs, very active, talky, and flighty, and they weigh 4 to 5 pounds.
Yeah, they remind me of Banties.
Banties?
Yeah, Banty chickens. They're a little bit talkative and kind of small.
And Cindy's raised chickens, so she knows what she's doing.
A little bit. I was a kid, and I had some before, and we had a few. What was interesting, the ones we had is their feather colors match the egg colors. It was fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you said this is what is being raised for us right now.
Yes, these are on hold for us now.
So we have Orpingtons. And these will give you 200 plus eggs, large, tinted to brown. They're very gentle, friendly, and charming, and they're a little bit chubby. They're 8 pounds.
These ones are really sweet. Now, the ones that we had, they like to do was called brooding, and that's when they sit on the eggs because they think they're going to have babies.
And there's actually an Easter egger. I'd never heard of that. 200 eggs per year, medium to extra large, blue, pink, green, and brown. They're very friendly, they're people-orientated, and they're docile, and they weigh about 5 pounds.
Had one of those too. I love the Easter eggs.
Anconas. Now that's a unique looking bird.
That's fun. We had one. We named her Mop Top when I was little.
And so they'll give you 180 to 220. Eggs are white. They're alert, active, but a little standoffish, and they weigh 5 pounds. And then we have the Sussex. These will give you 250 eggs, large brown or tinted. They're very personable, active, and gregarious, and they weigh about 7 pounds.
Those are cute. Never had one of those.
Dominique. Those look pretty. They'll give you 230 to 275 eggs a year, small to medium brown. They're very self-reliant, hardy, calm, and gentle, and they weigh 5 pounds.
Those are easy keepers, yeah.
And we have 8 fatal mistakes that preppers make. And one of them is trying to survive by bushcrafting after the crap hits the fan. So meaning that you're just going to bug out, go into the woods, and you got your whatever, trusty 22-308 or a shotgun on your back, and you're just going to live off the land. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, we all have good intentions, but once the weather really starts to wear on you and you're losing sleep and you're hungry and yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced a big mix of climates, having lived in Connecticut, Ohio, both Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona. So, a lot of difference in climates, and, every area has its own challenges as well. There's different flora, different fauna, and there's different things that could, cause a problem. And, here we have to be alert for scorpions and sidewinders and rattlers, things along those lines. In South Carolina, even more than Florida, I had to be aware of gators because they were everywhere. And wild boar as well, which could be more aggressive than a lot of things.
All the warm, fuzzy stuff.
So trying to be a lone wolf prepper, just doing it on your own, if it's a real, SHIT hits the fan situation, people are going to take advantage of other people. And unfortunately, that's the way society is. Even if we want to always manifest the best positive outcome and work together, we might be working together, But then there might be others that will be very, very opportunistic and take advantage of you and whatever situation they can. And if you're by yourself, you got to sleep sometime, and you just don't know what could happen.
The predators are definitely going to be out there.
Being unwilling to bug in or bug out, getting stuck in your ways, just having one mindset, and not willing to leave a place, even if, say, you're in California and you got everything stockpiled, and then all of a sudden it's, the worst fire season you've ever seen, and you're unwilling to leave. That's not going to do you any good. So you have to be willing to adjust. Yeah, be flexible. Keeping all your supplies in one place, it's a good thing to work with others, family living locally, friends locally, maybe split things up so, things make more sense. And splitting things up as far as all the different supplies, like maybe you have a ton of food, but your cousin or your brother or whatever, he has a couple hunting rifles. Maybe split up the food, split up the means of self-defense, and think in terms of that, because you never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And it could happen fast, and you want a couple of different ways to get to stuff.
And speaking about that, then you got different types of preppers. You get some preppers that just stockpile food, and or maybe there's preppers and there's survivalists, and we've talked about that before too. A survivalist is somebody that acquires skills, somebody that learns how to make a fire with no matches, with no lighter. Somebody that learns how to do things like rocket ovens. Somebody that also maybe takes self-defense courses, learns how to actually shoot the guns they own, and learns how to grow things, learns how to plant, actually acquires skills, takes first aid classes, things like that. Where like a lot of preppers, they just stockpile one thing, and that's all they do. They just watch videos all day, and think about what else do I got to stockpile. So focus on balance, and this is talking about some focus on guns and gear over everything else, fancy things, fancy equipment. Think about balance, and think about acquiring skills as well. Being an armchair warrior instead of getting actual training, this is talking about that same thing. And it talks about, maybe you go to a shooting range. Have you ever taken any classes? And, I had to take classes for a permit that I had before in a different state. And it's just good for safety practices as well. Forgetting what comes after the tourniquet, know your first aid too. Get first aid training, CPR, understand the body as well. It really, really helps in a pinch. What happens if you can't get to a doctor and something's happening and you're hundreds of miles away, A lot to learn there. Overestimating their stockpile. And, it was somebody that sent me a link to a friend of theirs, and he was sharing that he thought he had enough food for a year, is what he was thinking. Enough food for his family for a year. But with the lockdown situation, he realized it was only going to last 3 months, and he had vastly underestimated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that can definitely happen.
And both of us, with the way we eat, I think I overestimated what we need as far as, like rice and beans and things like that, because I think we are good for a long time with that. We could probably survive 2-3 years, with what we have. But what we need is, because we eat more fresh veggies and fruit. And there's going to be things that, it would take a long time for us to grow an avocado tree, or a mango tree. And, I would miss those things.
Those ones are fruiting, though.
Yeah, our pineapple guava, we were, they almost looked like they weren't going to make it. Adjusting to the harsh climate, and also the fact that I got a deal on them, because they were pretty root bound, and so we got them for like a third off. They lost a lot of leaves. They looked pretty bad, but they're starting to rebound now, and they're actually fruiting, which blew our minds.
It did. It's like we were gone for a little while when we came back, and not just that, the strawberries too. So it was like some elementals were there helping us out while we were gone.
Yeah, and being in tune and in sync with Mother Nature is very, very important as well. I would not underestimate that. And what else was there? There was something else besides the strawberries, wasn't there?
Just those two. The peppers.
Well, yeah, the peppers are starting to get baby peppers coming out, and those we did from seed. The only thing we didn't do from seed was the pineapple guava that we put in, and we have a goji berry tree, which is very delicate. So, trying to figure out where I'm going to put it. I think I might actually put it in one of the beds, which is going to be in the greenhouse covered over time because of the wind. The wind is just so insane here. Insane. I mean, literally to the point, like I said, I feel at times it could blow the camper right over. And I think one of the things we might have to do is to build sandbag walls to protect the camper. And I think that is going to be on our list of things that we're going to be doing.
And it'll be fun.
So, I want to thank everybody also that's been with us on Ko-Fi and Patreon. But before I let you go, I wanted to share with you guys this. Costa Rica, if you've been with me a long time, there's a part of me that would love to be living in Costa Rica right now. Can't deny it. Would I rather be there than where I am? Yeah, I would. For sure. Because it's the culture, it's also where it's at in so many ways. I know it's got a lot of volcanoes, there's a lot of natural disasters that could happen there, but every area has its challenge. But in the mountains there, the temperatures are always pretty much between about 68 and the mid 80s. That's perfect. And the soil is rich and volcanic, so you could grow food there year-round, tons of food. You could grow anything there. And so that's one of the things that I liked a lot. And I just like the culture, too, of Latin America. And I know at some point we're going to end up somewhere in Central or South America. I've seen it before in my meditations. So we might have to wait a few years. But the food, and this is getting into some of the natural foods that are there,
which are absolutely awesome and really good for you.
So we see chan seeds, which are very similar to chia seeds, and they come from a different plant, but they can be used similarly. They're often soaked and then served in beverages like lemonade with chan seeds. There's recipes here, and there's the Blue Zones Kitchen. And again, the blue zones are areas around the globe where people live very healthy lives, live very long lives. And one of the things is the sense of community as well. That's so important. But also the lifestyle with being out in nature, being out in the sun. That's another thing that I like so much about that type of climate, and want to replicate as much as we can with like open air areas where right now we have the garden areas situated with screening over them. And so when it's 95 out, it's actually perfectly comfortable under the screen because it reduces 70% of the UV and really does keep it quite a bit cooler. And yet we get nice breezes as well. So I love that whole open air living idea. But these seeds can be used for a lot of things. They're great for relieving stress and headaches. Lots of health benefits. They have antioxidants. They're very antimicrobial as well. And we have lemon verbena. And this is another one that has a lot of immune system benefits. Can soothe nerves and clear up congestion as well. And the essential oil of lemon verbena contains antioxidant compounds used in supplements in pill form in the U.S. Or the leaves can be dried and turned into a tea as well. Culantro, I became acquainted with this in a Asian market that I used to venture to, and found that I actually liked it better than cilantro. It tastes like cilantro, but it's just that it's a lot more of it for your money. And it definitely has that cilantro flavor, and it has a lot of the same sort of health benefits. Can be used in chilies, can be used in stir fries. Great flavor, great aroma. Delicious for sure. And it can be also used to get rid of bad breath. And it does lower inflammation in brain cells to reduce neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Also reduce pain and relieve asthma symptoms as well. and it's got B2 that helps with liver function. Then Cassia grandis honey as well. So this is a natural syrup that they make in Costa Rica using a substance found in the pods of the Cassia grandis, or the caro tree, which grows from southern Mexico to South America. And it has a lot of health benefits as well. Nice flavor, very good flavor. You could use it in place of any sweetener pretty much as well. Hearts of palms are nutrient dense, low fat. They come from the inner core and growing bud of certain types of palm trees, including coconut, palmetto, shukara, and others. Crunchy like asparagus, very much like artichoke stalks without the tips. And they have a flavor that's similar to those of artichoke hearts as well. So you can see some of the health benefits here,
which are really, really good to regulate blood pressure. Copper and iron to promote healthy blood cells and regulate cholesterol, phosphorus for strong bones and teeth, and zinc to boost the immune system.
And they are loaded with polyphenol antioxidants also, which neutralize free radicals, which obviously are things that damage cells. So awesome anti-inflammatory as well. So again, guys, thank you so much for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi. Without it, we really couldn't keep going with this. And anybody that is interested in a Vedic reading, let us know. Cindy could get to you there. Also, biofield tuning and energy work, as well as any sort of health coaching or spiritual counseling as well. Thank you guys for being part of our family. As always, God bless, stay safe and prepared, and namaste.
Namaste.